Hello summoners and welcome back to Pro Guides. My name is Kellen and today I'll be going over all the best blind picks, flex picks, and hard carries for every role in patch 9.17. We started off this series back in 9.16, but due to popular demand, we've decided to continue it for 9.17 as well. Since we want to prepare you guys as much as possible for Champion Select, we've decided to combine all three concepts into one video. By the time you finish watching, you should be well equipped and know exactly which champions are most optimal when it comes to drafting a number of scenarios. The first scenario is if you're picking before your counterpart and you really need that solid lane threat. The second one is if your team does need to confuse the enemy with a flex pick. Finally, do you just need a champion who can hard carry every game? Don't worry, we got you covered and we will answer all these questions later on. But before we get started, I want you to click the link below and check out ProGuides.com. ProGuides is the best proven way to increase your rank in League of Legends, and we post guide videos like this one every single day. As of now, we're currently uploading a challenger gameplay analysis for every single champion, so don't miss out on this. On top of that, we have an exclusive feature called InstaPro, which provides instant 24/7 on-demand coaching from the best of the best. Your friends are really going to be surprised at how you got so good at the game within such a short period of time. Now with all that being said, let's jump right into it. Just to clarify, today's video layout is a bit different than what you're used to. We will first mention a blind pick champion who does well into every matchup. Then we will mention one flex pick champion who you can lock in to confuse your opponents and throw them off guard. Finally, we will mention one hard carry champion who can 1v9 games. Starting with the top lane, our blind pick recommendation for this patch is Kayle. Now, Kayle recently received a mini rework and her stance in the meta has improved tremendously. She feels much more relevant earlier on in the game, which allows her to play a bigger part in the outcome of the match, otherwise known as agency. A unique part about Kayle is that she's able to stand her ground versus most top laners in the meta due to her long range, self-peel, and poke. Since the vast majority of matchups are going to be against melee champions, you can usually opt to take Kleptomancy and generate more gold to speed up your power spikes. However, if you find yourself against a ranged champion such as a Kennen or a Gnar, then you should have no problem farming safely from a distance. In these specific matchups, you should never be in kill threat as long as you play behind your minions and slow down the pace of the laning phase. Your goal will not to be to solo kill your opponents, but rather just stay in lane and inevitably outscale your opponent. If you're ever in need of a safe laner to blind pick, then Kayle can definitely do that. Next up in the top lane, we will be covering our flex pick recommendation for this patch, Akali. Much like Kayle, Akali received a ton of changes recently, which has helped her out a lot. Although the true stealth on her W did get removed, she's still in a great spot in the meta right now and is in even a greater spot for flex picking in your ranked games. Whenever you lock in Akali as your first pick, your opponents will be super confused because they have no idea if it's Akali mid or Akali top. In this specific patch, Akali does seem to do much better as a top laner than a mid laner due to her ability to bully out melee champions with her Q at level 1. If the flex pick strategy works and your counterpart picks into a bad matchup, then you can easily win lane by pressuring them early. Walk up, use your Q and passive whenever you can during the first wave. By doing so, it'll help you hit level 2 faster where you can level your E and get the early all-in. A lot of players underestimate how much damage Akali's E does because they're so used to the previous iteration where her E basically did no damage. Lastly, for the top lane, our hard carry pick of the patch is Vladimir. Now you're probably wondering, why did we pick Vladimir over Jax? Well, it is true that Jax is a 1v9 machine, but we did cover him in our previous episode of blind picks and hard carries, so we wanted to give some other champions some spotlight. When it comes to Vlad, he really shouldn't need an explanation. Vlad is one of the best champions in the game right now with his insane burst and survivability. During the laning phase, you should have no problem bullying out your opponents with your range and healing up any damage they do with your Q. In addition to that, Vladimir is extremely hard to gank because he can just pull away whenever he wants. During the mid game, you should have rushed your 45% CDR at that point and can one-shot any squishy member who gets hit by your combo. Probably the best part about Vladimir though is that his AoE damage is game-changing. You want to charge your E, flash Alt Q, then W, and finish it off with the Zhonya's once you exit your pool. If you manage to hit 2 or 3 members, then you've probably already won the fight. Alright, moving on to the jungle. Our blind pick recommendation for the jungle this patch will be Nunu. Nunu is actually one of the strongest junglers in the game, but he has a relatively low pick rate and ban rate. This is mainly due to his playstyle of spam ganking with snowballs and being in a mobile meat shield not really appealing to the majority of players. The thing is, this just plays to your advantage. Because he has a low priority in champion select, you'll be mostly guaranteed to get him every game. His clear speed is fast and healthy, and his team fighting is very good, and of course, his gank potential is even better. During the early game, you want to look to gank lanes aggressively and camp them with your snowball. Literally, roll it down any lane you want and keep on pressuring them. Use that specific lane as a pivot point and aggressively invade your opponents while you keep the enemy laners in check. Next up in the jungle, we have our flex pick recommendation, who is going to be Dr. Mundo. Now, if you weren't aware, Mundo has received buff after buff after buff after buff after buff. And recently, he's finally in a position where he can be an effective jungler. Since this is a brand new pick, a lot of players won't be expecting you to be Mundo jungle, and it'll confuse the crap out of the enemy top laner. Mundo does extremely well into popular jungle picks like Pantheon, Sejuani, Sylas, and Evelynn, so adding him to your champion pool is a must. He's a very straightforward champion with a low skill cap, so there shouldn't really be any problems. Although his early clear isn't exactly the best, Mundo starts to really shine after he hits a few power spikes. Cinderhulk, Warmogs, Spirit Visage, and Thornmail are so powerful on him, and it'll increase his power significantly. One thing to keep in mind when playing Mundo is your ability to take Crab is really bad. Since you don't have any hard CC, there's no way to reduce the Scuttle's defenses. Lastly, for the jungle, our hard carry recommendation is Jax. Jax received a buff to his Q's cooldown in the past few weeks, which has really helped him a lot in the jungle. Right now, he's one of the most popular junglers in Korea, but has a relatively low pick rate in the western regions like NA and EU. During the early game, you want to try to farm up safely towards your power spikes and occasionally gank lanes when necessary. Your main goal is to farm and power up for your Cinderhulk, Trinity Force, and Spear of Sojin so you can be a 1v9 madman. Jax works the best when you have laners who gain lane priority, that way they can help you out if you get invaded by the enemy jungler. Some matchups you want to watch out for are Volibear and Nunu, so make sure you ward up against them. Alright, let's run it down mid. Our blind pick recommendation for mid lane in patch 917 is Ahri. Ahri has always been a strong champion for the past few patches, but has never been OP. Riot has done a great job with balancing her recently, and it should come as no surprise to see her as a good blind pick. She has a lot of safety in lane with her long range and can always opt to farm with her Q when necessary. In addition to that, she's almost ungankable past level 6 because she has 3 dashes and a flash to gain a ton of distance. The thing is, she's not just a safe laner, but she's also a great one. Ahri can punish assassins when they try to all-in her with charm, and then followed up with WQ autos to do an insane amount of burst. The next champion will be our mid lane flex pick, which is Sylas. It goes without question that Sylas is very powerful, who holds a high presence in competitive play. Whenever you lock him in, your opponents will have no idea if you're going mid, top, or jungle, so they'll likely be clueless on what to draft. During the laning phase, you'll want to focus on landing as many Qs as you can and then forcing all-ins with your E and W. Your W deals more damage if your opponent is low and heals you more, so hold on to it until the end of the fight. During team fights, you're looking to steal the most effective ultimate that you can get your hands on. A lot of mid laners in the meta right now, such as Malzahar, Ahri, Vladimir, and Fizz, have a game-changing ultimate, so keep a close eye on those. And finally, for mid lane, our hard carry pick of the patch will be Kassadin. Kassadin has always been on the brink of making that push to S tier, but he's finally riftwalked his way up there, and now in 917, he is a really high priority pick. His early game is still super weak, so you want to sit back and try to play safe. However, if you manage to survive the weakest part of the game, he will eventually scale up and go from Kassadin to Kassa Win. If you end up hitting that all-important, famous level 16 power spike, the game becomes almost unlosable. His mobility and burst are unrivaled in the mid lane, and he can decimate champions such as Akali, Sylas, and Katarina with ease. Alright, let's start off our ADCs with our blind pick, which is Ezreal. Now, Ez did receive some pretty big nerfs recently, but they didn't seem to affect him that much. As long as you're still going the AD build instead of hybrid, the changes are almost unnoticeable after you hit a few items. Ezreal is the safest AD carry in the game, period. He has the ability to farm minions from 3 screens away and has a built-in flash into his kit, which is on a very short cooldown during the mid to late game. A lot of players have pretty much removed Ezreal from their champion pool because they believe that the nerfs have gutted him. However, this is not the case, and you should continue to play him in your ranked games with good results. Just remember that you need to learn to maximize your damage on him and weave auto attacks in between your abilities. I see way too many Ezreals trying to last hit minions with only their Q and forgetting that they even have auto attacks. Next up, our flex pick for the bottom lane is actually Garen. Garen bottom has been rising in popularity ever since Fnatic's team captain, Rekkles, played it during the LEC. Although Garen is getting reworked pretty soon, he's still an effective pick in the bottom lane who works well with supports like Yuumi, Karma, and Pyke. Not only that, he's really tanky, but has a lot of movement speed, tons of tenacity, and an execute ultimate that has no counterplay. Even if 2 people gang up on him, he's extremely hard to kill, and the odds are he will end up 1v2ing both of them. Against immobile ADCs like Jhin and Sivir, it's really hard to not get killed by Garen because he will always find a way to get on top of you, especially if he has the support to speed them up. Finally, our hard carry pick for ADCs is going to be Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is an extremely mobile ADC who does tons of damage. You want to go for short bursty trades with Q during the laning phase, while also weaving in autos in between. While most players would trade really aggressively to proc their passive, you should instead just use your Q and auto then back off immediately. Trying way too hard to proc your passive is the #1 mistake I see from low elo Kai'Sa players, so think carefully before you do so. After you've gotten a few evolves, you should try your best to maximize your damage during teamfights. You need to position really carefully and hold your E stealth out of sticky situations. Last but not least, let's move on to supports. First up for blind picks, we have Morgana. Morgana is a staple support in the meta who doesn't have a lot of bad matchups. Pretty much any support who has easily predictable CC gets hard countered by Morg. A few off the top would be Leona, Thresh, Pyke, Alistar, Rakan, and Blitzcrank. Not only that, but her Q and W also allows her to play very aggressively in lane while also being able to opt into a passive playstyle with the threat of her bind. This means that she can synergize very well with almost any AD carry in the game due to how versatile she can really be. Next up, our flex pick support is actually Swain. And now we've been mentioning Swain support a lot recently, and it's for a good reason. Swain is being played more as a support than any other role in 9.17. His play rate has skyrocketed this patch, and he's a clear favorite in the Korean ladder. One of the biggest strengths is that he's able to amplify his own damage without building any AP because of his passive. Just by hitting opponents with your spells, you'll be able to gain soul fragments, which allows you to do more damage with your ultimate. The best part of Swain's support is that the enemy team will never suspect it. If they end up picking a champion like Braum, Yuumi, or Alistar, they're about to get absolutely crushed. Finally, our hard carry pick for the patch in 9.17 is Zyra. Zyra recently received a buff to her ultimate, which has increased her win rate by a lot. She's one of the few carry supports who are hovering around S tier right now, and she'll likely make it there within the next few weeks. Her AoE damage, CC, and poke make her an insane carry threat after she buys a few items. During the laning phase, you want to do whatever you can to proc your Spell Thief's Edge and poke out the enemy laner with your Q and W combo. Once you hit level 6, you can pretty much all in the enemy duo for some easy kills. A lot of players constantly underestimate Zyra's damage because she is a support, so it'll easily catch them off guard. Alright, that's going to be it for our blind picks and hard carries video. We would love to hear your suggestions on how to make these videos better, so if you have something to add, then please comment down below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more content in the future. Also, make sure to check out ProGuides.com for guides and videos that were made by your favorite pro players, such as Hai, Bunny Fufu, and Mike Young. We're going to start uploading a lot more content within the coming weeks, so make sure you hit the bell icon to be notified of every upload. That's going to be all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the Rift.